Many people know about cargo tracking systems, but if you ask them, what is a cargo tracking system? Many of them will just look at you like, what are you asking? In this session, we are going to talk about the electronic cargo tracking system that is used by countries in the East African community. This is the system that is used by the Customs Department to track all the cargo that is imported in this country. Also, cargo that is taken through this country, that is cargo that is on transit, and also cargo into Kenya through any or from any other East African community country, all member states, especially cargo that is transported using roads and railway. I know some of you are saying, as a taxpayer, I do not import anything. Now, basically almost everything that we use is imported, or it has a component that was imported. However, it is important for you to understand how cargo is tracked in this country and also in the rest of the East African community countries. You never know, maybe tomorrow you're going to become an exporter or maybe an importer. You never know. Once you understand the system, that is the electronic cargo tracking system, then you will be in a position to appreciate some of the benefits of using an electronic cargo tracking system. And some of those benefits, you are already enjoying them. Yes, you are. Now, in 2017, the East African community, or the East African community member countries, put together a cargo tracking system. That cargo tracking system, it is referred to as Regional Electronic Cargo System, RECTS. And this is what is used to track the cargo that is imported into the East African community countries. Remember, the East African community countries are harmonized under the East African Community Customs Management Act 2004. And when you are referring to this particular act, remember that it has been amended over the years. So it is very important for you to also get hold of the amendments so that you can get a full picture of the taxation of imports into the East African community countries. When you hear about a cargo tracking system, what comes to your mind? What? Maybe one of the questions that you have been asking yourself is, why was the cargo tracking system introduced? And you're not alone. Many people have been asking questions. Why was the cargo tracking system introduced? Remember, this was introduced after the harmonization of the Customs Management Acts. Let us look at some of the reasons that led to the decision to introduce a cargo tracking system in a harmonized environment. The first reason was to close the tax laws loopholes. When the East African community countries were managing imports on their own, there was a lot of tax laws. For example, there were some importers who brought in their cargo probably through the port of Mombasa to Uganda or countries beyond Uganda, for example, Rwanda. Now, one of the things that used to happen is that they would bring in the cargo through the port of Mombasa, and that cargo is not taxed at the port of Mombasa because it was cargo in transit, and it would be taxed at the port of entry into Uganda. For example, Busia, Maraba, and any other entry point. Because if that cargo was headed to Uganda, then it would be taxed in Uganda. But what some of the people used to do is that they would bring in the cargo and then they would tell the customs that the cargo is going to Uganda, but the cargo does not go to Uganda. It is offloaded in the Kenya market, meaning that that cargo was not taxed, and that is the import duty. The second reason was to increase the cargo flow using the joint e-monitoring system. When the cargo is being monitored using the e-systems, the monitoring is faster. It means that when the cargo leaves the port of Mombasa to, for example, Busia, it is being monitored along the way. In case the driver stops anywhere along the way, then the customs people can be able to pick that up immediately, and then they'll get in touch with the driver and they will demand to know exactly what is happening. That means the movement of the cargo was increased. Reason number 3, eliminating cargo diversions into the local markets. when the cargo is being monitored or it is being tracked, then chances of diverting the cargo into the local markets, especially in Kenya and Tanzania, are minimized. Why? Because the cargo is being tracked on a minute-by-minute basis. So the customs people know exactly where the cargo is at every particular moment. Reason number 4, it was to create alerts and response during the stopovers that take more than the time that is allowed. Remember, the movement of the cargo is being tracked. So in case the driver stops and they take more time than they are expected, it is going to raise an alert. And the customs people will want to get in touch with the driver. They will want to know exactly what is happening. Remember, there is also the security aspect, that the lorry may be hijacked. So the customs people are able to tell when that truck is moving or it is not moving. And in case it stops more than the time that is allowed, then the customs people will want to know why the lorry is taking more time than it is allowed. Remember that the lorries have allocated time that they can stop. Beyond that, the driver will have to answer questions. And if it is a case of insecurity, then they can be able to interfere. Reason number 5 was to minimize cases of customs security control compromise. Now, when the trucks were being escorted by people, chances of compromise were very high. That is unlike today when the monitoring or the tracking of cargo is using a system. But when the lorries are being tracked using the cargo tracking system, then chances of compromise are minimized. Remember, if it's a human being who is escorting the trucks, they can always come up with any reason. Customs officers will report to the other customs officers, and in such a case, there are very high chances of compromise. But when it is a cargo tracking system that is being monitored by the human beings, then the human beings cannot get together with the system and agree on exactly what to do. Reason number 5 was to minimize the cases of customs security control compromise. Reason number 6 is to promote fair trade. Importers from all the East African community countries will pay tax at the same rate. There is no question of an importer paying tax at a lower rate. All the taxes are harmonized, and when the taxes are harmonized, there is the tracking system. That is the cargo tracking system. You can always tell how much tax the importer paid for a specific cargo. All the information is there in the system. This system is not only about tracking the movement of cargo within a specific country. No, the system is used to track the entry of cargo into the country, the movement of that cargo within the country, and also the exit of that cargo out of that specific East African community country. Now, for that to happen, all the data must be input into the system. From that, you can be able to tell who imported the cargo, what was contained in the cargo, how much duty was paid, when the duty was paid. You will also be able to get information about all the other taxes that were paid for that specific cargo. The other information that you'll be able to get is, for example, when the data on the cargo was first captured and when the cargo was either cleared or exited from a specific country. You'll also be able to tell whether the movement was smooth, and that is whether there was any issue with the movement of the cargo from one customs station to the next customs station. You will be able to get all the information that may be of interest to you. And this is very important because when people import cargo into the country, that cargo is coming from somewhere. And many things happen in the international market. And some of the things that happen are very dangerous things. For example, the cargo could be stolen, or it is cargo that had been condemned in another country, or they are counterfeit goods. So it is very important to capture all the details about that particular or specific cargo. And because of the cargo tracking system, that information is centralized. Remember, the government also wants information about the imports, and that information is used for crafting policies, and this is trade policies. If the goods are coming through the port of Mombasa or Dar es Salaam, the taxes that are being levied at the port of Mombasa or Dar es Salaam are at the same rates. If the goods are being imported through the port of Mombasa and the people are going to pay tax in Uganda, they are going to be charged at the same tax rates. So that promotes fair trade in the East African community countries. Reason number 7 was to minimize competition between locally manufactured goods and imported goods. We have cases where the imported goods were cheaper than the locally manufactured goods. Now, if the import duties and other taxes are the same, then there is fair competition. We had cases where some of the countries would allow goods, especially the manufactured materials, to be offloaded into their countries without duty. That would result in unfair competition in the East African community countries. Reason number 8, it is to minimize the cost of doing business locally and in the region. Look, when it is human beings who are monitoring or who are tracking cargo, it becomes very expensive. But when it is a system that is tracking that cargo, it is cheaper. For example, if you have like maybe 10 lorries from Dar es Salaam to Kampala, before you needed 10 people or more than 10 people to escort those particular lorries. But today you only need a system. You need maybe 1 or 2 people to sit at the cargo monitoring station, and then they would be able to monitor that cargo. It is cheaper to monitor the cargo using a tracking system. Reason number 9, to reduce the time taken to conduct certain business transactions. When you're dealing with a system, you can always tell where the cargo is because the regional cargo tracking system is on time. For example, if you are an importer in Uganda and you want to go and pay your import duties, the customs people are able to tell you exactly where your truck is. Is it at the port of Mombasa? Has the cargo left the port of Mombasa? Is it almost crossing the border, or where exactly is it? And then once you get that information, then you'll know at what time you need to go to the station to clear your cargo or send people or pay your tax. This means that the regional cargo tracking system helps importers the time that they take for certain business transactions. Now, we have given you 9 reasons why the regional cargo tracking system was introduced. Remember, these are not the only reasons. There are very many other reasons that informed this decision to have a regional cargo tracking system. Remember, this was introduced in the year 2017. Since that time, so many things have happened and the tracking system has been improved, but the fundamental reasons still remain the same. Of course, with time, many other reasons have come up, and this regional cargo tracking system has been one of the best investments in the East African community countries when we are talking about trade. Now, it is very important for you to understand one thing, that for any system to work, there has to be willingness from all parties involved. Tax in Kenya and also in the East African community countries. It is our hope that there is something that you have learned about the cargo tracking system, and you are going to subscribe so that you do not miss anything that we upload. Now, in this channel, we talk about tax in Kenya, and also tax in the East African community countries that touch on us. We also talk about international tax because we do realize that there are very many Kenyans who are doing business internationally. We have come to the end of this session, and we have been discussing electronic cargo tracking system in the East African community. I know majority of you have used this system, and even if you have not used the system directly, chances are that you have used an item or are using an item, for example, a good that was imported using this particular system to track the cargo. And this means that you appreciate the use of this particular system. I know there are very many people out there, importers, who have had problems with the customs. And this is especially in cases where you have customs refunds and you do not know what you can do, or you do not know how to get back your money, and this is money that you paid and it was in excess, and that means that most likely you're looking for a refund from the customs department, and that is the Department of the Tax Commissioner in Kenya Revenue Authority. In case you have a problem, you can always get in touch with us. The link is in the description of this video. And still, before you go, there's one thing I would want you to do. Check out other links that we have in the description of this video. Those links are to resources that can help you earn your business. We talk about domestic taxes and also import and export taxes and anything else that can help any taxpayer in this country. We also have a website with the same name, and it has a lot of resources that can help you in your business. And before you leave, make sure that you subscribe to this channel and also hit the notification bell so that anytime when we upload a video, you will be notified. We thank you for staying with us up to this point. Once again, this is Dr. Wakaguyu.